have read some of his memoirs of his life in his childhood life in Berlin. And one story that I always really loved is he went to this island as a child called I'm probably saying this wrong, the Flaueninsel. The Peacock Island. Insel means is island in German.
It's like, peacocking for like men's rights guys.
Yeah.
They all go up and they try to show off their peacock moves.
But this
guy sounds cool.
This is an island in Berlin where there was supposedly peacocks running around, and it's far. It's kind of like a ways from Berlin, so it's like a day trip. And he went there, and he was looking everywhere for these peacocks, but they were all hiding, and he was so disappointed. And he thought, if I could just find a feather of one peacock, then I would everything would be right in the world. I would be like, my place in the world would be affirmed, and I would truly be happy for the rest of my life. But he could not find the feather.
Oh, man, tragic.
Whoa.
As his life was.
The rest of his life was a bummer after that.
And Benjamin made it a point to go to Paris, where he lived. He was very much a part of the city, and he loved walking. That was a big thing he talks about, as being a flaneur, or flaneur. I don't think I need to do that. Which is, you just walk around and take a city in through the sidewalk. You see people going to work. You see things being sold in shops, arcades, which you wrote a lot about, where you could find. About arcades? I don't want to ask you a question. I feel like you would know.
The arcades are kind of like the mall. Like
yes, it was a precursor to department stores,
public areas, and his concept of the flaneur was kind of this cosmopolitan or urban archetype of someone who spends their time kind of consuming, like walking past these stores, and that's sort of your leisurely or non-work activities, and it's not purely this positive thing either. It's this figure of someone whose life is, even when they're doing something leisurely or non-productive, they're still engaged in this kind of consumption, passively or actively.
Yeah.
But it does also relate to the situation's concept of the dérivé of walking from neighborhood to neighborhood and like measuring your like psychological effect from neighborhood to neighborhood. But this is the concept of aimlessly strolling through life. And like kind of what that means in like as a rootless person or as a consumer or atomized individual.
Right. And that was sort of part of one of the big takeaways from him is, these people are always still part of the city, and they are also part of a broader international global system. Capitalism is a totality. You are always within it. But history is fluid, as like we were talking about with the bringing dialectics into studies of history. It's not. I think the term was like homogeneous history, where people try to, and this was there were a lot of Marxists who do this, where you try to make sense of things in like a hyper linear narrative. You say like this happened, causation. It's focused on this happened and then this other thing happened as a result. And Benjamin was kind of trying to disrupt that a little bit. Would you say can you speak to that?
Yeah, so in the concept of history, he's purely going after this concept. I think he calls it historicism, which is really this, like what we were talking about before, this normative approach to history, where you present some narrative, no matter how true it is, as just like the way it was. In fact, there's a good quote in here, dividing the two.
Right. An objective look at history and reality.
I'm sorry, what is the term for that when you present something as the way it was?
Historicism.
Okay.
Historicism rightly culminates in universal history. It may be that materialist historiography differs in method more clearly from universal history than from any other kind. I'll keep trying to find like the really good quote in here.
Yeah, so one of my big takeaways is that we are conscious of our surroundings. We are conscious subjects of our historical period, but there is a limit to that consciousness. We do not have a schema that will tell us where we'll be in 10 years. We cannot predict the future, even if we try to approximate the best path into it. We are a product of the past, which is only going to become apparent what the past is, how it links up, those causations which are there, but you can't really fully understand them until they're in the past. You can only really do it in...
Yeah, let me just read
That's a good point.
this segment. It gets to the heart of it. Articulating the past historically does not mean recognizing it the way it really was. It means appropriating a memory as it flashes up in a moment of danger. Historical materialism wishes to hold fast that image of the past which unexpectedly appears to the historical subject in a moment of danger. The danger threatens both the content of the tradition and those who inherit it. For both, it is one and the same thing, the danger of becoming a tool of the ruling classes. Every age must strive anew to wrest tradition away from the conformism that is working to overpower it. The Messiah comes not only as the Redeemer, he comes as the victor over the Antichrist. This is where it gets a little weird.
Yeah.
The only historian capable of fanning the spark of hope in the past, in the one who is firmly convincing that even the dead will not be safe from the enemy if he is victorious, and this enemy has never ceased to be victorious.
Right. The enemy being capitalism, right? Or the ruling class.
Yeah, I mean, I think either of those are very safe to say, but the dominant order, the dominant ideology, the ruling classes, for sure.